I want to bring up a segment now, John. I want you to weigh on this. This is a quick segment that we call movies you can watch over and over and over again.
Oh, I like it.
And my arguably my favorite decade of film for movies is the 1990s. It had everything from Jurassic Park all the way to 99. I mean, it was just a great decade packed with movies.
It had the one year, 94, with like Pulp Fiction and Forrest Gump and Shawshank. And there was like a million movies that year.
It had all those action movies in the middle.
Right.
Saving Private Ryan. I mean, it was just, I just thought it was a great decade.
90s action movies is like the most well-known genre in action. Like within the action genre, there's there's zillions of subgenres, but 90s action movies were like the ones that set the standard.
Right, because they were still cheesy enough where you wouldn't make the same movie today, but they still had like grit in them, where it wasn't like an 80s movie where they just show up with glasses and say, crime is a virus and I'm the cure. And you're like, okay.
Terminator 1 was like a horror movie. Or Terminator. It was like a horror movie. And then like in the 90s, it became like an action movie.
Right. Yeah, they switched it up. Yeah. But movies you can watch over and over again today. And I brought up the film, speaking of Scorsese, is Goodfellas. It starts off with the line, as far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be on the podcastle. I always wanted to be a gangster. And tell me if I'm not right, but tell me if I'm wrong. But I think you can watch Goodfellas over and over again because it is like the Beatles or the Seinfeld of films. If you're just sitting around and you see it on, you're like, it's Goodfellas. It's a win-win. Every scene in that movie is good. The characters are timeless. The characters are funny, but they're also like violent. It's like a weird dichotomy going on.
A tense humor.
Yeah. And it's got an all-star cast. It's got De Niro, Pesci, Ray Liotta. And ironically enough, John, this is the list part of it. There are 27 actors in Goodfellas that were also in The Sopranos. 27.
Whoa.
And it's arguably... it's debated that The Sopranos would never exist if it wasn't for Goodfellas. Because Goodfellas came out at a time when Scorsese's career was like going down the toilet. He really didn't make any good movies in the last few years prior.
Really?
Yeah, the last good movie he did before that was like Once Upon a Time in America or Raging Bull. But he was making like a lot of shitty movies in the late 80s, and that kind of like brought him back as like a serious director.
Oh, wow.
But most of these actors I've never heard of.
I agree, but I think my favorite part of that whole movie is when he's making the sauce and the helicopter's flying over.
Oh, yeah.
And that part is so good to me. It's so like genius where he's like, you feel so paranoid like with him.
The helicopter. Well, it's funny. It's funny. That's all it is. It's funny. Tell him to keep stirring the sauce. I'm stirring it.
Yeah. It's so good. Lines. Like the way that it's like shot together like real fast and back and forth, and he keeps looking up and
he's sweaty from like the drugs and he's paranoid.
Yeah, and like the money's going away, and I don't know. It's really good. I would definitely say whenever it's on, as long as it's on a channel where there's no fucking commercials, I will definitely. But we're like so close to not being like in that stage anymore when you're flipping through the channels. Like we may be in a day where you're never going to be flipping through the channels.
Yeah, it's almost impossible.
It's weird
to do that anymore. You still do it once in a while, but it's usually stripping. I'm stripping a lot after a couple of beers. It's usually flipping through like streaming services.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear the actors
that we get used to?
Yeah, it's bizarre. It's like a learning curve. You want to hear the actors that were in The Sopranos that were also in Goodfellas?
How many?
I'll read it really quick.
How many Italian names do I have to hear?
27.
Oh my God. Go for it.
Frank Vincent, Vincent Pastore, Lorraine Bracco, Tony Sirico, Suzanne Shepard, Tony Darrow, Tony Lip, Michael Imperioli, Frank Pellegrino, Frank Albanese, John Carcia, Nicole Burdett, Chuck Lowe, Marianne Leon Cooper, Daniel Picante, Tobin Bell. Remember Tobin Bell from Saw? Yeah, he's in both of those. And I was like, he was? And then I Googled these clips, and I was like, for the video, so I can edit this in. And I thought, oh yeah, he was in those. Paul Herman, Susan Verone, Marianne Leone, Anthony Alessandro, Gene Canfield, Chuck Lowe, Vito Antuofermo, Victor Colocchio, Anthony Caso, Gaetano Loguadici, sounds Irish, and Angelo Pietro Pinto.
Pietro Pinto.
People often compare.
Crazy.
Yeah, the soundtrack was great. It's got like great 50s doo-wop songs all the way to like the Rolling Stones. It's got like this awesome soundtrack.
Yeah. The soundtrack is I forgot about that. That's like another thing where it's different than most like mob movies.
Right.
Where it's, it's like normal song, it's like regular songs. It's not like Italian, like
or like some trumpet that's just like. And I think that's what works.
I hate it.
It separates The Godfather from Goodfellas. Godfather is like a much better movie, but Godfather is like kind of serious. It's very like
right.
honor the family.
You gotta really focus.
You gotta focus. And Goodfellas is a fun ride. Like that's what I've been fucking telling them. And they play like the Stones and they're drinking.
Yeah.
If they're like old thugs having fun, but also like arch criminals. But I always think Goodfellas is like a go-to movie if there's nothing to watch. This happened the other night. I was a little tired of Disney Plus for the night because I already watched like a bunch of stuff, and I was like, I need something with like cursing in it just to like balance out my life.
Something rated R.
Yeah, so I went through that. That's like my new thing. I go through Disney Plus now for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then when I'm like ready to go to bed in an hour, I'm like, all right, let's find something like with some grit. And I couldn't find anything, and I saw Goodfellas was on like Philo or something. And I said, doing it. And it's always like a win-win to watch Goodfellas, I think.